I was one of the proofreaders, so they sent it to me and they said, get something back. So I opened it, looked where I was in the program, and saw my first name and didn't even read anything else. So I'm not terribly upset about that. My father was trained as a classical pianist. He had a certificate from Juilliard. He was also a nationally known mathematician. He had a brilliant mind. When he died 5 years ago with Alzheimer's, there wasn't much left of the person he had been. About 5 years ago, 6 months before he died, I started writing about him. To begin with, I was just trying to understand what was happening. Is the person still inside and we can't get there, or they can't come out, or has the person changed? And what I think I discovered is that yes, the person is there, but accessing it's much harder. Toward the end, language disappeared, but touch was really important, and music was very important. We connected through music, and that's where the title "My Father Humming" comes from. So that I really felt, I mean, the last thing, the seminal poem, which ties everything together, and which I'll read, with "He hums while I'm playing," was a connection we made that we never could have made at any other time. And it took him basically to the point of death, of letting go of everything else, for that to happen. Then, after I'd completed this, I started reading in public, and I thought I'd been telling my story and my mother's story. It's a family story. And I discovered I was telling the story of a lot of other people, too. People would come up to me and start talking about whatever else it was. And it doesn't even have to be someone with dementia or Alzheimer's, although probably almost everybody in the room has someone close to you who is touched by this disease that we're figuring out how to deal with. The words seem to resonate, which makes me very humble. It's like I tapped into something. There were many unlikely circumstances that had to happen before this book got written. I had not written poetry in years and years and years. And 2 months before I started writing this, I said, I need to write poetry again. I wanted to go on an artist exchange to South Africa with my wife. They didn't invite me, they invited her. So I put her on an airplane to go to South Africa, and I flew to my parents' house where I spent a week, which is the longest time I'd spent since I'd been in college. And it was the last time I saw my father alive, and where most of these poems came from. So something was lining up for this to happen. And what I feel from the response is that it's also lining up to tell for other people. So hopefully this is a book that resonates for a lot of people. And this is from My Father Humming. A house with music in it. You step into the house and hear the music. Stop, breath held, push the door shut behind you. Lower the groceries to the floor, hoping the bag won't crinkle. And stand, eyes shut, taken so far from sounds of the world outside, as if it doesn't exist. There is only, in the other room, piano, player, and the music, passing through your pores, penetrating your heart, lodging there so deep, it's hard to imagine a time it wasn't there, or there might come another when you walk into nothing. His hands not on the keys, no magic in his fingers. Vibration of the twisted strands of metal, gone. The silence emptier for what it used to hold. The book is in 3 parts. The first part, which is pretty short, is just sort of generally about me and my father. The second part, which is much longer, is about his decline. It's a journey that he took, and then I taking with him, and also in figuring out things for myself. And the last part, which is short, is after he's died. Because there's not a lot of time, I'm not going to read anything from the first part, so this next poem, and the next several poems are from the middle section. Down the stairs. My father's going downstairs to bed, my mother helping. It looks like a disaster waiting to happen. Tied together by a rope, running from waist to waist, like the invisible tether which has bound them for so long. Neither can remember a time before when they were free to fall on their own, not pull the other with them. She's done this since the time he took a tumble, and it was hours before she got him up. At each step, his foot searches the air for the one below. My mother above, waiting, after he stood not moving for a while, reminding him, "You're going down the stairs, the right foot next." At the landing, there's a chair he sits on, shuts his eyes. She rouses him with, "Only 9 more to go," puts her arm under his, tries to lift him. For a moment, it's not clear if he will make it. "You have to help me here," she says. "I can't do this by myself." And when he stands, points him down the stairs, puts his hand on the railing, steps back till the rope is taut between them, and on they go. Love notes. She comes home from a morning out, finds on the kitchen counter a note in his shaky hand. "I love you." Her full name on the line below, and beneath that, taking up half the page, his name signed, first and last, as if he was 16, wanting to let the world know what he'd discovered and couldn't keep secret. She finds the same note all over the house, on the bathroom counter, the dining room table, one beside him in the study where he sits at the computer. She comes up behind him, puts her arms around his shoulders, slides her cheek next to his. "I love you too," saying his name first and last, and nuzzling his ear, smiles as she adds her own, the one her parents gave her and the one they've shared for all these years. He turns his head toward her. In his look, she sees he doesn't know what she's talking about. She picks the note up that sits beside him, kisses it, holds it in front for him to see. Still no response. His face is blank as the computer screen he's been staring at. My father had a quirky sense of humor, and even as he declined, he still had it. And I think that's partly what's going on here. At home, the fireman, standing on the landing in their home in Austin, Texas, towers over my father, lying on his back, looks down and asks, "Where are you, sir?" My father answers, "New York City," and laughs. The fireman repeats a little louder, "Do you know where you are, sir?" My father answers a little louder, "Yes, New York City," and laughs a little louder. My mother smiles at the fireman. He does this sometimes. Says to my father, "You know where we are, at home in Austin," while he keeps staring up past both and smiling as if at a memory of him, a boy, lying on the sidewalk, looking up at the tall buildings of New York City. Anniversary. She goes into the room, sits beside the bed, takes his hand. "You know what today is?" she asks the body that does not respond. "Our anniversary. It's a big one, 70. She stops, remembering the year before, going out, he in his chair, complaining about the food. He couldn't have been too badly off. Lifting him into it, out of it. How hard that was, how much he had declined. No inkling then. She puts it out of mind. Some of them were difficult. You weren't always the easiest, but for better or for worse. And she thinks, but does not say. Squeeze once, if you can hear me. A second time, if you still love me. Too much to ask, not daring to hope or be disappointed. Better to live with memory, lapsing into silence, following her thoughts. And then, when lost in them, feeling pressure on her fingers, a second time as well. She squeezes back, once, twice, and waits. Nothing more. On his face, no change, eyes shut, as always. And as the day settles into night, longest of the year, she stays, hands joined with his in silence, while the room gets dark so slowly, as if the light is being exhaled out, till all she sees, a shadow where the window is, outline of his body on the bed. The only sounds, their breathing, rising, falling, and so faint she almost cannot hear, but knows it still is there, the beating of their hearts. As I said, my father went to Juilliard. I grew up hearing the music, especially Bach and Beethoven. But I was taught no music, and I think it was so I could have a childhood that he kind of didn't have. He was in a competition when he was 7 at Carnegie Hall, and his brother was 5. But 5 and 7-year-olds don't say, "Mom, I want to be in a competition." They say, "Can I go play?" So he's given it that opportunity. But later in life, I taught myself to play, and I played the same notes that I'd heard growing up. But I made very different music because I played it at a very different pace. To give an example, the piece that I'm playing in this, on the wall between he had a huge music room that was bigger than this with 2 grand pianos in it, and then a study, and in between there's a big open window, and he's sleeping now in the study. And I'm playing in here. And on the wall between them, there's a program of him playing the same piece when he was 19. So he knew this piece pretty well. And to give an example of how wrong I'm playing it, when he plays it the way you're supposed to play, it takes 4.5 minutes. When I play it, it takes about 23. And I'm playing the same notes. I don't add any, I don't subtract any. I'm just doing it a very different, it's different music, and I'm not, it's my interpretation. So that's what's happening in this one. My father humming, too. I'm at my father's piano, playing a piece he used to play, but not the way he played it. Not, he's sure, the way Herr Beethoven intended. He's hearing it, not sleeping as he often is, and he's not happy with it. Before, he would have yelled out, "Stop!" or booed or yowled, "You're trying to kill me!" He's not saying much these days. Before I've played 5 notes, he's choking, loud and drastic. Stop now, I think. Call 911, then rush up, see what I can do. The caretaker is there. She's raised the bed. He's sitting upright. Nothing else to do. Let him work it through. I keep playing. The choking gets louder, more alarming. A rattle in the throat, as if this is the end. My stomach tightens, but I don't stop. And this goes on a while. Duet for a son playing on his father's piano while his father gasps his last. But then the choking lets up, gets quieter, changes to a cough, more like the clearing of a throat, and stops. He's still, and I'm still playing. I take a breath, relax. As I go on, I hear, so faint at first, I'm not sure what I'm hearing. He's humming, tunelessly, along with me, the way he used to when he was playing. It gets stronger, surer. There's no mistaking it. And we go on like this, the two of us, making music until the piece is done. Leave taking. You've buried both your parents, your mother like this, slowly in a home, brother, younger than you, choosing to starve, so many dear, close friends. You've loved to have him for so long, but you have said goodbye to the person he once was, the one you shared so much with. By now, words gone, laughter, memory, as far as you can tell. Unless, like a bird trapped in a house, he's in there still, wings banging against the panes. Open all the doors, the windows, leave them wide. He goes on flapping, trying to get out. And these last few are from the final section. Memorial service. At the memorial service, it's my father they're talking about. His name that's said over and over. But it's me I'm hearing, as if I'm the one being buried here. No one else left between me and the void. I'm next. There's no escaping it. And after I have spoken, and it is done, it's my two sons who come up to me. And without a word, first one and then the other, hug and hug, till I know, they know about the death of fathers, mine and theirs, their children's too, saying to me now what they won't be able to when our turns come. Final instructions. When I die, don't bury me, but burn me down till all that's left is dust. Set aside a handful to mix with yours when you have moved on too. And of the rest, take me to the water where I have played and splashed and laughed. Go out on it till all you see is blue and green. Commend me to the wind which holds the spirit. And as you feel it touch your face, toss this little that remains gently up into it, to carry where it will, and be content, knowing I'm at peace. And the last one is called Endnotes. I sit down at my father's piano. The first slow notes of Beethoven's Moonlight echo in the room till the air's alive with them, striking to the bottom of the heart and lower, down to the core. Here, in this room, through these keys, these notes, these fingers, and this heart, what he gave me years ago, I now give back to him. And if I listen as I play, I still can hear his spirit humming loud and clear. Thank you.